Here's another fun story that your researchers can bring up easily. Do you know the name Stanley Levison?
No.
So Stanley Levison was until 1956. I think he was not. It was not an official title, but he was basically the CFO of the Communist Party USA. He was kind of ran its financial operations. And in 56 or 55, really, he realizes that the writing is on the wall for being a minion of Stalin. It's like McCarthyism has happened. It's like, it's just Hungary has happened. Like, it's just not. It's not the vibe. It's not the thing. So Levison does this interesting thing where he decides to revive a cause of the Communist Party from the 1930s, and he finds a black minister with a somewhat dodgy PhD, and creates a movement and an organization, and writes all of his speeches and manages his whole organization. Absolutely. This organization is called the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. The preacher is Martin Luther King. And the funniest thing, here's a fun thing that you can do with Wikipedia. If you go to Stanley Levison's page, you will see that it says that Stanley Levison was influential in creating the SCLC. Go to the SCLC's page.
Nothing.
No mention. Nothing. He's not on the page. He's not on the page. And so, like, this is
Levison was instrumental in all the activities of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the organization established by Dr. King and other Southern black preachers to further the cause of civil rights. He had initially been introduced.
Go to the SCLC page.
Go to the SCLC.
Search for Levison.
Why not?
Man, you've seen the Truman Show. You're like, why does that car come around every hour?
So, but what does this mean to a guy like you? How do you process this information? So, did they use MLK to?
It's just that it's like, when you see an organization, government, a non-government, you can never be sure that it is what it says it is. And so, basically for, even now, it's like we accept all these sort of lies without question. We see a politician reading a speech and we're like, well, we didn't know he didn't really write that speech. Maybe he helped edit it a little bit. Maybe he marked it up. But he's reading someone else's speech.
You're saying I Have a Dream was written by him?
No. He didn't write his own speeches. This is common. This is well-known history.
So I Have a Dream speech wasn't written by Martin Luther King?
No, he didn't write his own speeches. He might have written Letter from a Birmingham Jail because he was actually in the Birmingham jail, but I'm not, completely confident of that. If he wrote Letter from a Birmingham Jail, he was plagiarizing his own speechwriters.
And Stanley was one of the speechwriters?
Yes.
Go back, Rob, on the previous. Go back one page on the. Oh, right there. Martin Luther I Have a Dream speech, but it was a collaborative effort on key contributions from his lawyer and speechwriters Clarence B. Jones, businessman Stanley Levison.
Businessman Stanley Levison.
Yeah, businessman, not communists, and other advisors who drafted, provided input, and King
I think
himself.
Jones is also a communist.
Clarence is also a communist.
But I don't know the first.
I just want to read you one more thing because while you were speaking, I read this one part. Go back on the previous page. Go to the RFK side. It's like 5 sentences from the bottom. In 1963, following the revelation of Dr. King's circle, that Attorney General R.F. Kennedy and then John F. Kennedy had pressured Dr. King in person to break with Levinson and Jack Odell. But Levinson, also communist?
Yeah.
But Levison continued to advise Dr. King privately until Dr. King's assassination in April of '68. And afterwards, Levison continued to work with Dr. King's wife, Coretta Scott King, the Poor People's Campaign in D.C., that took place from May 12 to.
Of course, he's actually the CEO, right? And he's actually the CEO, right? And
so MLK's communist ties to Levison.
Yeah, but it was, the thing is, if you pull back to the bigger picture, basically, even the term civil rights. So basically, what you had was in the 30s, with cases like, for example, the Scottsboro Boys, which was George Floyd in the 1930s. You had this. basically black nationalism and black liberation, huge cause of the Communist Party in the 20s and 30s. If you look up the phrase self-determination in the Black Belt, for example, that's a 1920s era communist slogan, and they actually imagined having black SSRs in like Alabama, like actually parts of the Soviet Union, um, and like, you know, because the Soviet Union was intended to be a world government, of course, right? You know, and it wasn't Russian; it was started in Russia, um, and you know, and not really by Russians either, right? And so you have all of these things that are basically, you know, 20th century stories, which, when you look at them with a 21st century historical view and you're trying to find the reality rather than the narrative, you basically see that the reality is like very different from the narrative. It's like FDR being in a wheelchair. So what Levison was doing was simply basically taking a Communist Party initiative from the 20s and 30s and laundering it as what we now call the Civil Rights Movement, right? So completely, just no question of this history. It's like all the details are kind of readily acknowledged. If you look at like David Garrow's King biography, you know, it's all going to be in there, right? You know, and you can actually tell the truth about it now. Maybe not quite in the way that I'm telling it, because I'm telling it in a way that makes it sensational, because I believe it actually is sensational, right? And it's kind of amazing what happened here. It's kind of wild, and it's sort of like, of course, when we see these other regimes of the 20th century, we sort of expect them to be Orwellian. We expect people to not understand what's going on in their own country. But, like, you know, the reality is, like, what is America in the 1960s? It's basically 3 TV stations, ABC, CBS, and NBC, plus for the ruling class, NPR and PBS. And it is a very controlled, very tightly organized broadcast media environment. If you look at basically during both world wars, you'll see what we call, and conservatives call the MSM, is actually a government agency. So in World War II, it's the Office of War Information, OWI. OWI is basically the mainstream media as a government agency. World War I, it's the Committee on Public Information, the CPI. Insane, wild propaganda stuff. You ever take a look at, like, you know, World War I propaganda, and you're just like, this is propaganda for 11-year-olds. Like, this is incredibly simplistic, incredibly crude. Like, why are we fighting in Germany? The Hun is going to come rape your sister with his spiked helmet, right? You know, and it's like, you look at the reality of the diplomatic, you know, machinations, you know, behind that, which are easily as complicated as anything going on in Washington today. And you're just like, actually, this is for children. Hi there, I'm Curtis Yarvin, aka Mencius Moldbug, and I've created a profile on this fascinating site, Minect, which allows anyone to put in a few dimes and ask me about anything, and I'll take questions on anything that isn't personal. I have many opinions on history, politics, science, economics, and all kinds of interesting things. And if you have a good and interesting question, why not ask it? I might well answer it. Thank you very much.